So, you think you're untouchable?
Word life. This is basic thugonomics. This is basic thugonomics. Word life. I'm untouchable, but I'm forcing you to feel me. Word life. This is basic thugonomics. Word life. I'm untouchable, but I'm forcing you to feel me. Whether fighting or spitting, my discipline is unforgiving. Got you backing up in a defensive position. An ass-kicking anthem, heavyweight or bantam, holding camp for ransom. The microphone phantom, teams hit the floor, it's the new fight joint. Like a broken needle, kid, you missing a point. We dominate your conference with offense that's no nonsense. My theme song hits, get your reinforcements. We strike quick with hard kicks, ducking ice sticks, bare knuckle mitts through fight pits. Beat you lifeless, never survive this. Get forgot like all timers. Two-faced rappers walk away with four shiners. The raw rhymer. Your time is up, my time is now. You can't see me, my time is now. It's the franchise where I'm shining now. You can't see me, my time is now. In case you forgot or fell off, I'm still hot, knock your shell off. My money stacked fat, plus I can't turn the swell off. The franchise doing big business, I live this, it's automatic. I win this, so you hear those horns, you finish. A soldier, and I stay under you fighting. Plus I'm storming on you chumps like I'm thunder and lightning. Ain't no way you breaking me, kid, I'm harder than nails. Plus I keep.
Welcome to a very special edition of the WWE Wrestling Talk Show with Lisa Rock Jones and
Sean Randy Smith as we celebrate 20 years of John Cena in WWE.
yes, a few months ago we did 20 years of Randy Orton, and now it is time for John Cena to do the same thing.
And we will go all the way through his early beginnings in WWE up to the Hollywood megastar that he is now.
Starting, of course, back in 2001, like with many of the people at the time, were like Randy Orton, Batista, and several stars of the early 2000s who would grow to be big names. John Cena would sign a developmental contract with the WWF in 2001 and was of course assigned to what was then the developmental territory in OVW.
Which would now go on to he is the NXT.
Whilst in OVW, he would wrestle under the name of The Prototype.
Yes, you heard us correctly. The Prototype.
And would win the OVW Heavyweight Championship and the OVW Southern Tag Team Championships. And throughout 2001, he would receive several tryout matches to go to the main roster. However, going to the main roster did not happen until the June 27th, 2002 episode of SmackDown.
Yes,
And
where Kurt Angle would issue an open challenge.
And conveniently enough, it will be on the June 27th, 2022 episode of Raw that John Cena will make his next WWE appearance.
Yes.
But Kurt Angle would come out, and this would be the start of a era of WWE that would become known as the Ruthless Aggression era.
Era.
He would unfortunately go on to lose this match with Kurt Angle, but was received backstage with congratulations from Billy Kidman, Ron Simmons, aka Farouk, Rikishi, and some. But how shall we describe this? Ah, yes. And some undercard guy called The Undertaker.
Yes, the Undertaker would even congratulate Cena on the debut.
This would make John Cena a fan favorite. I know, hard to believe sometimes.
Yeah.
And go into a feud with a little known wrestler known as Chris Jericho.
Yes.
Leading to the was John Cena's first pay-per-view match at Vengeance in 2002.
In which John Cena would win via a roller.
Then Cena would go into feuds with Los Guerreros.
Yes.
And various tag teams in and out. It wasn't really, I would say, until 2003 when John Cena would start to use his rap persona. And the Doctor of Economics, so he would slowly become the person he's known as now. He started this off with a partnership with Bill Buchanan, aka B Squared at the time.
Yes, a little less said about that, the better.
He was part of the 2003 Royal Rumble match.
He was. But I think in that match he was sustained quite a bad injury.
Yes, I seem to remember him being eliminated from that match and landing awkwardly.
Thanks to the big
However, he did make an appearance at that year's WrestleMania. After WrestleMania, he would go after the WWE Championship and have his first of several matches against the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar.
Oh, Jesus.
And after that match with Brock Lesnar, I don't remember seeing too much of Cena throughout 2003.
No, it was more like in the background, but visible, but there. Now we move on to
In 2004, however, is when things would really get rolling with John Cena. When again he was in the Royal Rumble and part of the final six before being eliminated by the Big Show. Then this would lead to a feud with Big Show, which started out of No Way Out in a Chip or Fred match to face Eddie Guerrero for the WWE Championship.
yeah.
But Cena would get his first taste of championship gold at WrestleMania by beating the Big Show.
The United States Championship was outcomes of
Brass Knucks and the move formerly known as VFU.
yes.
Excuse me. So throughout 2004, after WrestleMania, Cena would have matches with Renee Dupree and then go into a feud with Booker T over the United States Championship after he was stripped of the title by then general manager Kurt Angle.
Yes.
There would be a best of 5 series to crown the new champion. And then Cena would win the title back eventually, only to lose it to Carlito. Then at around that Survivor Series time, they did a storyline where John Cena was attacked in a nightclub. And Cena would eventually win the US title back from Carlito. However, 2005 Royal Rumble match, or should we call it the 2005 Botch Rumble?
Yes. More precise name.
When it came down to Batista and John Cena, they both went out at the same time, causing Vince McMahon to come out, tear both his quads, and eventually restart the Rumble. Ultimately won by Batista, but John Cena would get a WWE Championship match at WrestleMania. During this whole incident slash feud, John Cena would lose the US title to Orlando Jordan. Only to win his first of many, and we do mean many, WWE Championships at WrestleMania 21 by defeating JBL. He would also then successfully defend the championship in an I Quit match.
In what was a very brutal I Quit match at Judgment Day.
After that, he would be drafted over to Raw.
And change his gimmick.
Not necessarily. It was after WrestleMania in that period where his music changed to what it's stayed to at ever since. And slowly over the years, he developed into what he is now. So going over to Raw in 2005, Cena would have matches with Jericho, Christian, both in triple threat and singles matches,
Yeah.
then Kurt Angle, then as things moved along, we would go to 2006 and the Elimination Chamber.
First ever Elimination Chamber. Second ever Elimination Chamber.
John Cena would successfully defend the championship, only for the ultimate opportunity to show up.
Cash in his Money in the Bank and beat Cena for the title after Cena just completed the match.
Cena would win the championship back at the 2006 Royal Rumble.
Yes.
And go on to face Triple H at that year's WrestleMania. Then he would have several matches with a match with Edge as well. Then we go to some hostile ground.
Known as W.
In which Rob Van Dam would cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase to win the WWE Championship with a little bit of help from Edge, and cause the ECW Championship to be revived as well. Unfortunately, due to some real life circumstances, Rob Van Dam's reign would be cut short, causing Edge to take the championship. Then Edge would have a match with John Cena at SummerSlam, in which John Cena's father would get involved. Then we would go to a TLC match set Unforgiven at Edge's hometown, in which after being FU'd through 2 tables, Cena would win and hold the WWE Championship for 1 year with successful title defenses against Shawn Michaels, Great Khali, Randy Orton, Edge, to name Umaga, to name but a few.
Yes. Now we move on to another year.
In the process of this reign as WWE Champion, and as to build to his match with Shawn Michaels, at this point, Cena would also become the tag team champion with Shawn Michaels, following the injury to Triple H.
Yes.
However, unfortunately, when it came down to October, I think it was,
Something like that.
during one of his many rivalries with Randy Orton, John Cena would suffer an injury, causing him to vacate the WWE Championship.
Which we believe to be a shoulder injury after he got RKO'd on top of an announce table.
John Cena would return as the number 30 entrant into the 2008 Royal Rumble match.
Correct.
And win the match, earning his title match at WrestleMania that year. but John Cena in 2008 would fail to gain back the WWE Championship.
Yes, unfortunately.
However, he would target Legacy along with Dave Bautista,
Yes.
and they would become tag team champions for a week before facing each other at SummerSlam. And in a awkward landing to a Batista bomb, I think it was,
Which was on a hard corner of the ring at the time.
John Cena would suffer a neck injury, only to come back at Survivor Series to win the World Heavyweight Championship from Chris Jericho, in which Cena would hold on to that championship until No Way Out, when Edge, who had lost the WWE Championship earlier in the night, decided to insert himself into the Elimination Chamber match.
Yes.
And the storyline with Edge as World Heavyweight Champion would involve a affair with Vicky Guerrero with her and Big Show,
Yes.
which led to a triple threat match at WrestleMania, in which John Cena would win back the World Heavyweight Championship, only to lose it to Edge again with a bit of help from Big Show. Then, in the latter part of 2009, Randy Orton and John Cena would trade the WWE Championship a couple of times.
How do you mean a couple of times?
Then a certain person called Sheamus would come in and surprisingly beat John Cena in a tables match.
Everyone's shocked in this.
Then in early 2010, John Cena would win back the championship, only to lose it immediately to Batista, who would gain favour with Vince McMahon over his Bret Hart storyline. And then that would lead into a series of matches with Batista, starting at WrestleMania and then ending at Rule Limit, I think it was.
Yeah.
In which Batista would leave WWE. And then comes the next.
Yes. Nexus attacks Cena during the match with CM Punk, trashing everything.
And then the Nexus would constantly get involved in cost John Cena WWE Championship matches.
And attack back over them as the superstars, which forced John Cena to make a faction to try and fight back the Nexus.
And they would at SummerSlam. But then they had a match in which if John Cena lost, he would be forced to join the Nexus.
In which he did lose thanks to interference from Curtis Axel and a little known Simpson who in later years we're going to learn by Wyatt, known as Husky Harris.
Of course, Barrett would do this to try to gain an advantage as he was going after the WWE Championship, which at that time was being held by Randy Orton.
Yes.
And as this continued, John Cena was kayfabe fired. And he came back and was reinstated and would finally end his feud with the Nexus.
Yes.
But then Cena would go into a feud with The Miz over the WWE Championship. Except they would be tag team champions for all of a couple of hours. On a point here. However, when it came to the WrestleMania match between John Cena and The Miz, there was a outside factor in this because at this point, Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, had resurfaced in WWE.
Lighting views for the most anticipated feud we've ever seen in WWE.
And for the first time ever, the main event of WrestleMania was set up a year in advance. And then, also in 2011, despite winning the WWE Championship, John Cena would lose it to CM Punk after he attempted to stop the repeat of a Montreal Screwjob. But then, because CM Punk worked out, John Cena would beat Rey Mysterio, who had just won the championship in a match. Then there was a champion versus champion who's the true champion at the SummerSlam of that year. Match ultimately won by CM Punk. A Money in the Bank cash-in would take place during this with Alberto, I will not mention his name,
No, of course not. Reasons.
Then there would be a back and forth with a championship there a couple of times before CM Punk would eventually win it at Survivor Series. At that Survivor Series, we would have The Rock and John Cena team up to take on The Miz and R-Truth.
And a match that was called
Never before, never again.
which Cena and Rock would win, with The Rock hitting the rock bottom on Cena after the match.
Then they would slowly build up to the WrestleMania match. Then things got worse for when we get to the WrestleMania match, eventually won by The Rock after John Cena attempted the People's Elbow only to be caught into a rock bottom. But the night after WrestleMania, things got a little bit worse for John Cena, with the return of Brock Lesnar.
Lesnar come down, shook Cena's hand, only to F5 Cena in the middle of the ring.
We would have a few matches with at least one match, maybe even two with Brock Lesnar. Then John Cena would go into a little feud with Mr. People Power.
And someone who's now recently left, Laurinaitis.
Yes. Then in 2012, what did John Cena do?
I don't think he did much, to be honest.
As the next big highlight for me comes in. Oh yeah, that's right. Cena. I think that Cena seemed to have a few problems with the Shield, and which would show up in late 2012. Cena would win the 2013 Royal Rumble match, and it just so happened that The Rock would win the WWE Championship, which meant that once in a lifetime would turn into twice in a lifetime.
And Cena would win this time.
And the WWE Championship in the process, which he would hold until SummerSlam of that year, when he lost it to Daniel Bryan, only for Daniel Bryan to be pedigreed and cast in on. Now, Cena was out for a period of time after that, but he returned to win the World Heavyweight Championship from Alberto Del Rio and unify the WWE and World Heavyweight Championships in a TLC match with Randy Orton, which he lost. Then, as we went into 2014, Cena would find himself in a rivalry with Bray Wyatt.
Yes. And once again, Cena would prevail in that feud by beating Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania.
Yes, but that rivalry didn't exactly go past, it went on a bit further after WrestleMania. Now, at WrestleMania, Daniel Bryan would win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship,
He would.
but unfortunately would be forced to vacate it due to injury.
Yes.
So then John Cena would win the championship, only to be absolutely demolished by Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam.
And we do mean demolished.
And it was round about this time, really, that Cena started to become a part-timer, I would say. Because
Yes, where he would change his schedules, yeah.
after his several matches with Brock Lesnar of that year, he would be absent until WrestleMania 31, in which he would go back to the United States Championship and defeat Rusev for it.
Yes, in a match at WrestleMania.
Then he would run into Kevin Owens, and we all know how that went.
Yes, Kevin Owens being the NXT champion at the time.
Then at SummerSlam of that year, it will be Seth Rollins versus John Cena, title for title. Where have we seen that before? And with a bit of outside interference from
Jon Stewart.
then Seth Rollins would win the match and hold the United States Championship for a couple of weeks. And after John Cena won it back, he would lose it to Alberto Del Rio. But then suffer an injury which kept him sidelined and out of WrestleMania 32, although he did make an appearance to aid The Rock, who had just beaten Eric Rowan in the fastest WrestleMania match. Then at SummerSlam of 2016, he would face the phenomenal AJ Styles in what would be several matches throughout the next couple of months, culminating in John Cena's 16th world title win at the Royal Rumble 2017. At WrestleMania 33, he would face The Miz and Maurice with his then girlfriend Nikki Bella.
That feud would end at WrestleMania, where Nikki Bella and Cena would win, only for Cena to pop the question to Nikki Bella to marry him at WrestleMania. And we all know how that turned out.
Yes, then John Cena would be gone again for a while. Then the WrestleManias, did I say it was 17 or 18? I think it was 17. John Cena would have a London match with Baron Corbin at SummerSlam.
Yeah, let's move on about that, because it was like, okay.
John Cena came back for Survivor Series to be on one of the teams as well. Then he would make a mistake of challenging The Undertaker.
And throughout the time of this feud as well, Cena would verbally confront The Undertaker on the mic, and he would make insults until the day of WrestleMania itself. Right.
Until Taker popped up.
Yeah, and Taker then kicked Cena's ass and beat him in the middle of the ring.
Then Cena would essentially, I would say, he made his appearance with the Saudi Arabia shows.
Yes.
But after stuff with 2019, his main return after that, partly down to a little thing called he was not really seen properly again until this past year, Money in the Bank till 2021. Then he confronted the head of the table, Roman Reigns.
And he would try to challenge the head of the table for the Universal title, but would come up short.
Yes, and now it looks like he may have another title match, supposedly, at this year's SummerSlam.
Yes. The rumour going around is that he's going to be challenging Austin Theory for the US title.
So, this concludes our trip down memory lane over the past 20 years of John Cena. John Cena will return this Monday on Monday Night Raw, where they will celebrate 20 years of Thugonomics.
From all of us, the Wrestling Talk Show, congratulations to you, John Cena, on reaching the milestone in his